part.
Mr Chairman.
The Honourable Darren Hughes.
Mr Chairman, I anticipate this will be a much shorter consideration of Part 2 on the bill. There was, at the Select Committee, there was a great degree of agreement from what I can read in the commentary to the bill. The only issue that I wanted to raise with the Minister for all the good it appears to be doing is what his policy objectives were with respect of amenity value and the restrictions on local government and setting that amenity value, the debate between improvement and setting or keeping the amenity value consistent. That may be an area where local government may well feel that the bill is written in a way that could be taken as being against them and against the work that they're doing in their communities. So it would be of some use to get the Minister's comment on that, whether that's a big thing or not. I'm quite genuinely not sure. So if he could shed some light on that, just in case he chooses not to, maybe I should do part of his job for him and say what Part 2 does. Part 2, I mean, for the people who are viewing on Parliament television this evening and need to know what it is exactly we are debating, this is Part 2 of the Infrastructure Bill, a bill which was a centrepiece of the National Act Māori Party government. Sometimes it's the Māori Party National Act government, but on this occasion, National Act Māori Party government. This is a bill that was central to the reforms of the economy to unlock growth and the other phrases and cliches and slogans that seem to fall by the wayside as things get so tough for the government and politics, but still remains stuck here in the Committee of the Whole 2 years into government. But Part 2 amends the Telecommunications Act, the Electricity Act, the Gas Act and the Local Government Act to provide consistency around reasonable access to the corridors, allocation of costs when utility operators are required to move assets, and time periods for notification and response. It also amends the Railway Act 2005 and the Government Roading Powers Act 1989 to provide timeframes for responding to requests for access to rail corridors and motorways, and require controlling authorities to publish criteria on which they'll base their decisions to grant access. Those are all matters which the Labour opposition is in agreement with on the bill. As Darian Fenton commented on earlier, a lot of this work was underway or had been commenced under the previous Labour government, and so that work was taking place. We believe those changes will be of use. As I said at the beginning of my contribution, sir, it was the issues around there is the issue in Clause 21 of setting reasonable conditions, which we've made some comment on, but also this issue of the amenity value, which we'd like to hear from the Minister on. But we respect the fact that he's obviously a very busy man, so obviously a very taxing and challenging portfolio for him. We've got an interjection out of him. Yeah, that's a great thing. He will now appear. He will now. The good news is he's alive, and the other good news is that he'll now at least appear in the Hansard record, making a contribution on his own piece of legislation, which at one point, a couple of speeches from the throne ago and a couple of Prime Minister's statement ago, was one of the turbocharging pieces of legislation. Goodness knows what the next 6 months of the year is going to be about, given that so many of the initiatives in the first half of the year appear to have gone west. And in fact, I actually think this bill was moving forward, or turbocharging the move forward. Yeah, well, if there's one thing that we want to,
that's a good line.
He mentions Julia Gillard. Of course, Mr. English knows all about that. He knows all about being the loyal deputy that stabs the leader in the back. He did that when he was a deputy himself, and then the full political circle came around and it happened to him. So he'd be able to tell us quite a few stories about that. And it's interesting. You see, the politics of I tell you what, the politics of personality always get him going. It's one of the only ways to get him to contribute at all is to get him into that sort of that nasty little side where it's all about the machinations of politics and who's sold out who and for what reason. But in fact, the phrase that Bill English would secretly like to be known about this government would be the crunching of the gears government, as it sort of goes from fifth gear to reverse in very, very quick order as policies and priorities change. And the infrastructure bill, thankfully, is not going to be one of those, I hope, because it's going to get the support of the Labour Party, the Minister's best effort notwithstanding.